I call the Honourable Minister Peter Dunn.
Mr Speaker, this afternoon I want to talk about a subject that will affect all of us at some point in our lives. A few days ago I saw a billboard that said 15% of the children born this year will live to be well in excess of 100 years. And the issue that highlighted and highlights for us is the issue of superannuation. And this country has been grappling with that issue unsatisfactorily, really, for the last 30 years. And at the last election, we saw the position taken by the two major parties, which was a polarised extreme in many senses. The National Party saying the age of entitlement will remain 65 in perpetuity, effectively. The Labour Party saying over a period of time they wish to raise the age to 67. The problem with both those positions is as follows. One is as inflexible as the other imposes a burden on working people to stay in the workforce well beyond the time that they might have planned to retire. And we're starting to see a rising tide of public information and public questioning now about the viability of the system. No one is seriously suggesting that we should cut the pension. No one, apart from the far right, no one is seriously suggesting a radical increase in the age of entitlement. But what people are seeking is more flexibility and more choice. And I note with interest a recent newspaper survey which put a couple of propositions before New Zealanders. When people were asked whether they favoured the status quo, 65, raising the qualifying age to 67, or giving people the option of retiring later for a bit more or less for a bit early, nearly 50%, 49% favoured the flexible approach. The status quo was favoured by 29% and 15% wanted to go to 67. Mr Speaker, within that survey is the answer to the question that New Zealand confronts, and that's why United Future, as part of its confidence and supply agreement, is promoting the concept of flexible superannuation, so that a person who makes the choice to retire early at, say, 60 would get around 65% of the core entitlement of national superannuation. The person retiring at 65 would get 100%, and the person who chose to defer retirement until age 70 or deferred picking up their superannuation would get around 130% of the core entitlement. And what that recognises, Mr Speaker, is a couple of things. Firstly, New Zealanders are working longer. And secondly, and probably most important in the context of this debate, they want the choice about when they retire. They do not want to be told by the state that you've got to work 2 more years to 67 to qualify. They're uncertain about the viability of 65. They want to be able to arrange their affairs in a way that they can make the choice. And Mr Speaker, what makes this policy even more attractive is that with the increasing uptake of KiwiSaver, in years to come we will have many, many more New Zealanders qualifying for a KiwiSaver payout at the age of 65. So the argument that's raised by some that you can't afford to retire on a reduced rate of superannuation early will be diminished by the fact that people actually know there's a big nest egg coming at 65. Mr Speaker, flexible superannuation provides an answer to the issue that confronts New Zealand. It doesn't cut the overall level of pension expenditure, but it certainly stabilises it. It gives New Zealanders more choice about when they retire, and people who feel that they are physically exhausted long before 65 can make some plans with certainty about picking up a superannuation at a reduced rate at an earlier time. Others who feel hale and hearty or who are in a position where they are financially independent could well choose to work later and then pick up their superannuation later. Mr Speaker, there will be within the next few months a discussion paper issued publicly as part of our confidence and supply agreement inviting public feedback on this issue. But what I note with interest is the overwhelming support that the newspaper poll indicated already before this issue has really had a huge amount of traction in the public. And I note also with interest the interest that I've had from the Leader of the Opposition and from government ministers. This is an idea whose time is rapidly coming. New Zealanders know that things have got to change. If you go back 50 years, the age profile in New Zealand was the classic Christmas tree. Now it looks much more like a lamppost. It's probably going to become more like the inverted Christmas tree in the future. What we have to do now, Mr Speaker, is plan for that time, put in place a sensible approach to superannuation which is sustainable and which will last for future generations, and Flexi Super is that answer.
I call Darian Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, today 13